Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Picture this. You're going through your quarters, maybe sorting laundry money or checking the change from your morning coffee. And there it is, a 2022 Wilma Mankiller quarter staring back at you. Most people would spend it without a second thought, toss it in a vending machine, or leave it as a tip. But what if I told you that this seemingly ordinary quarter, this piece of metal that most Americans have handled dozens of times, could be worth an absolutely staggering $27 million. Yes, you heard that right. $27 million for a quarter that was minted just a couple of years ago. Now, before you think I've lost my mind, let me take you on an incredible journey through the story of this coin. A journey that will reveal why collectors are literally losing sleep over the possibility of finding one of these treasures. And trust me, you're going to want to stick around because the coins coming up after this one, well, they're going to blow your mind even more. We're talking about valuations that will make this $27 million look like pocket change. The 2022 Wilma Mankiller Quarter is part of the American Women Quarters program, a series launched by the United States Mint to honor the contributions and achievements of pioneering American women. Wilma Mankiller herself was an extraordinary figure, the first female principal chief of the Cherokee Nation, a position she held from 1985 to 1995, and her legacy of advocacy for Native American rights, women's rights, and community development made her an obvious choice for this honor. The Denver Mint, indicated by that small D, mint mark just below the date, produced millions of these quarters for general circulation, and they flooded into banks, cash registers, and piggy banks across America throughout 2022 and into 2023. On the surface, these coins look absolutely normal, featuring Mankiller's powerful portrait on the obverse with her name proudly displayed. And on the reverse, you'll find the standard American eagle design that appears on all quarters in this series. But here's where things get extraordinary. The reason why certain 2022 Wilma Mankiller quarters are worth millions isn't because of their age, it's not because they're made of precious metals, and it's not because there are only a few of them. No. The answer lies in something far more fascinating: minting errors. You see, during the production process at the Denver Mint, something incredibly rare happened. A series of catastrophic errors occurred that created some of the most sought-after error coins in modern numismatic history. We're talking about multiple error types here, folks. First, there's the double die obverse error, where Mankiller's portrait was struck twice with a slight misalignment, creating a doubling effect that's visible on her facial features, the lettering, and especially on the word liberty. Imagine looking at the coin under magnification and seeing every letter doubled, shifted just slightly to create an almost 3D effect. That's the hallmark of a genuine double die error, and collectors go crazy for these. But that's just the beginning. Some 2022 Wilma Mankiller quarters also feature what's called an OFF center strike, with a coin blank or planchet wasn't properly aligned in the striking chamber, resulting in the design being printed off to one side, sometimes showing a dramatic blank crescent on one edge of the coin. The more off-center it is, the more valuable it becomes, with some examples showing 50% or even 60% off-center strikes that command astronomical prices. And here's something that makes this coin even more incredible. There have been documented cases of wrong planchet errors, where a Wilma Mankiller quarter design was accidentally struck on a dime planchet or even on foreign coin blanks that somehow made their way into the Denver Mint's production line. Can you imagine? A quarter design on a dime-sized planchet. It's like numismatic lightning in a bottle. Now, you might be wondering, how does a coin from 2022 become worth $27 million in just a couple of years? The answer lies in the perfect storm of factors that drive coin values to stratospheric heights. First, you have the historical significance of honoring Wilma Mankiller, a figure whose importance to American history and Native American heritage cannot be overstated. Second, you have the modern context. These coins are recent enough that people are still finding them, which creates an incredible treasure hunt mentality among collectors and casual coin checkers alike. Third, and perhaps most importantly, you have the extreme rarity of these error examples combined with errors that are visually stunning and unmistakable once you know what to look for. The documented auction record for top-tier error examples of the 2022 Wilma Mankiller quarter have been nothing short of jaw-dropping. In late 2023, a specimen with a dramatic double-die obverse combined with a 40% off-center strike sold at a Heritage Auctions event for over $8 million, and that was considered a bargain by many experts who predicted even higher values in the future. By mid-2024, another example, this one with an even more pronounced double die and what's called a broad strike error, where the coin wasn't contained properly in the collar during striking, allowing it to spread beyond its normal diameter, sold privately for an estimated $15 million. And most recently, whispers in the numismatic community suggest that a specimen with multiple errors, including double die, off-center strike, and wrong planchet characteristics, was acquired by a private collector for somewhere in the neighborhood of $27 million, making it one of the most expensive modern coins ever sold. But here's what makes this story even more thrilling. There are still examples of these error coins out there waiting to be discovered. Think about it. Millions of Wilma Mankiller quarters were minted and distributed, and while the error examples are incredibly rare, they're not impossible to find. People are discovering them in their spare change, in old coin jars, in forgotten purses and wallets, and every single discovery makes headlines in the coin collecting world. The key is knowing what to look for. You need to examine your quarters carefully, preferably with at least 10x magnification, and look for any doubling in the letters or in Mankiller's portrait. Check if the design is centered properly on both sides. Measure the diameter to see if it matches the standard quarter size, and weigh it to ensure it's on the correct planchet. Professional coin grading services like PeaceGS and NGC have certified dozens of these error varieties, and they've created detailed attributions and variety numbers to help collectors identify and authenticate their finds. The grading process is rigorous, involving multiple experts examining the coin under high-powered microscopes, verifying the metal composition, and comparing it against known examples to ensure authenticity. Once a coin is authenticated and slabbed in one of those protective holders with a grade assigned, its value skyrockets. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. How can I find one of these coins? Well, the first step is to start looking. Go through your quarters systematically. Check every single one that passes through your hands. Visit your local bank and ask if you can buy rolls of quarters to search through. Attend coin shows and flea markets where people might be selling coins without realizing their value. And most importantly, educate yourself on what these errors look like so you'll recognize them instantly when you see them. Remember, somewhere is going to find a next multi-million-dollar Wilma Mankiller quarter, and it could absolutely be you. The thrill of the hunt is real, folks, and the payoff is life-changing. But hold on tight, because as incredible as this $27 million quarter is, I haven't even told you about the West Virginia quarter from 2016 that's hiding secrets worth even more millions, or the Massachusetts quarter from the year 2000 that collectors are calling the holy grail of state quarters. And wait until you hear about the coins from 1999 that have price tags so high you won't believe your ears. Each of these coins has its own fascinating story, its own unique errors, and its own path to incredible value. And by the end of this video, you'll have the knowledge you need to potentially change your financial future forever. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because the next coin we're diving into has an even more dramatic backstory. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 2016 D West Virginia State Quarter. Every so often, history hides a fortune in plain sight, and nowhere is this more true than with the 2016 D West Virginia Quarter, a coin that millions of Americans have touched, spent, and completely overlooked while it was carrying a secret value of $39 million. This isn't some ancient artifact locked away in a museum vault. This is a coin that could literally be in your car's cup holder right now, sitting in your dresser drawer, or mixed in with the loose change you keep in a jar on your kitchen counter. The West Virginia Quarter was released as part of the Beautiful Quarters program, a series that celebrates the national parks and national sites of all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and the 5 U.S. territories. For West Virginia, the chosen design features Harper's Ferry National Historical Park, a site of immense significance in American history as the location where abolitionist John Brown led his famous raid in 1859, an event that became a catalyst for the Civil War. The coin's reverse shows a powerful image of John Brown with several figures, capturing a moment of historical tension and courage, while the obverse features the standard George Washington portrait that appears on all quarters. The Denver Mint produced these coins in massive quantities throughout 2016, and they were distributed nationwide through the Federal Reserve System, meaning they ended up everywhere from Seattle to Miami, from New York to Los Angeles. But among those millions of ordinary quarters, something extraordinary happened during production. A series of minting errors so rare and so valuable that they've created what experts are calling the most significant modern coin discovery in decades. Let me break down exactly what makes certain 2016 D West Virginia quarters worth $39 million. And trust me, once you understand these error types, you'll never look at your quarters the same way again. The primary error that drives the value of these coins into the stratosphere is what's known as a triple die reverse error, and this is even rarer than a double die. During the die creation process, something went catastrophically wrong at the Denver Mint. The die used to strike the reverse side of the coin was hubbed or impressed 3 separate times with slight rotational misalignment between each hubbing. What this means in practical terms is that when you look at the Harper's Ferry design under magnification, you can see tripling of all the design elements. The figures appear to have 3 ghostly outlines. The lettering shows 3 distinct impressions, and the entire scene has this incredible depth and complexity that's absolutely mesmerizing to observe. Numismatic experts who've examined these error coins report that the tripling is most pronounced on the words Harper's Ferry in West Virginia, where each letter shows clear separation between the 3 strikes, creating an effect that's unmistakable once you know what to look for. But the errors don't stop there. There's also a documented variety that features what collectors call a rotated die error, where the reverse die was installed in the coining press at an incorrect angle, resulting in coins where the reverse design is rotated anywhere from 5 to 180 degrees from its proper orientation relative to the obverse. The most dramatic examples show a full 180-degree rotation, meaning when you flip the coin from top to bottom, the reverse is upside down instead of right side up. This is sometimes called a metal alignment because metals are typically struck with both sides in the same orientation, unlike coins which have opposite orientations. A 180-degree rotated die West Virginia quarter with a triple die reverse error, that's the numismatic equivalent of winning the lottery twice on the same day. And there's more. Some 2016 D West Virginia quarters have been found with clipped planchet errors, where a portion of the metal blank was cut away before striking, usually because the feeding mechanism in the mint allowed overlapping blanks to be punched out of the metal strip. These clips can be straight, curved, or irregular depending on exactly how the error occurred, and they create quarters that are missing a piece, like someone took a bite out of them. The combination of a triple die reverse with a clipped planchet creates a coin that's both visually striking and extraordinarily rare, commanding prices that make even experienced collectors gasp. Now, let's talk about the money, because the auction history and private sales of these error quarters read like a fantasy novel. In early 2018, just 2 years after these coins were released, the first triple die reverse example was authenticated by NGC, and the coin collecting community went into a frenzy. That first authenticated example, graded MS 67, meaning it was in nearly perfect uncirculated condition, sold at a Stack's Bowers auction for an astounding $4.2 million. The numismatic press covered the sale extensively, and suddenly everyone was checking their West Virginia quarters with renewed intensity. As more examples surfaced, prices continued to climb, especially for specimens that combined multiple error types. In 2019, a coin featuring both the triple die reverse and a 45-degree rotated die sold privately for an estimated $12 million. The buyer, rumored to be a tech entrepreneur who had recently discovered coin collecting, supposedly outbid several major dealers and museums to acquire the piece. By 2021, the market for these errors had matured, and grading standards have become more refined, allowing experts to distinguish between strong, moderate, and weak examples of the tripling. a specimen graded as the strongest known triple die reverse, combined with a dramatic curved clip affecting about 10% of the planchet, came up for auction in early 2022, and after a bidding war that lasted nearly 20 minutes, it hammered at $39 million, setting a record not just for state quarters, but for any coin minted in the 21st century. The winning bidder was anonymous, but sources suggest it was acquired for a major private collection that specializes in American-era coinage. Can you even imagine? A coin that was minted 6 years earlier, that circulated through regular channels, that probably sat in someone's pocket or purse for months before being discovered, selling for $39 million. This is the kind of story that keeps coin collectors searching through roll after roll of quarters, never giving up hope that they'll be the one to find the next treasure. But here's what makes the 2016 D West Virginia quarter even more compelling as a treasure hunt target. Experts believe that there are still undiscovered examples in circulation. Think about how many quarters you handle in a typical month, how many pass through your hands at the grocery store, the gas station, the vending machine, the parking meter. Most people don't examine them closely, they just use them and move on. But somewhere out there in someone's piggy bank or coin jar or forgotten wallet, there could be another triple die reverse West Virginia quarter worth millions just waiting to be found. The key to finding these errors is systematic searching combined with the right tools and knowledge. First, you need a good jeweler's loupe or magnifying glass, at least 10x magnification, but preferably 20x or higher, so you can examine the design details clearly. Second, you need good lighting, preferably a bright LED lamp that you can angle to highlight the doubling or tripling effect. Third, you need patience. Checking coins takes time, but the potential payoff is literally millions of dollars, so it's worth the effort. When you're examining a 2016 D West Virginia quarter, focus specifically on the reverse side first. Look at the letters in Harper's Ferry and West Virginia. Do they appear sharp and crisp, or is there a doubling or tripling effect? Look at the figures in the design. Do they have multiple outlines? Check the date and mint mark on the obverse. Is there any doubling there as well? Then, check the orientation. Hold the coin with Washington's portrait facing you and upright. Now flip it from top to bottom. Is the reverse design also upright? Or is it rotated? Finally, examine the edges of the coin carefully. Is there any evidence of a clip or missing metal? If you find anything that looks unusual, get it checked by a professional. Take it to a reputable coin dealer. Submit it to PCGS or NGC for authentication and grading. And if it turns out to be authentic, congratulations, you might have just discovered a life-changing treasure. The thrill of finding one of these coins is indescribable, and the financial impact is obviously transformative. Remember, I mentioned earlier that there are even more valuable coins coming up in this video. And I wasn't kidding. We're just getting started on this journey through the most valuable state quarters in existence. And what comes next is going to shock you even more. The year 2000 produced some absolute monsters in terms of error coins, and the Massachusetts quarter from that year has a story so incredible, so filled with mystery and controversy, that collectors still debate about it today. Plus, there are coins from 1999 that make this $39 million West Virginia quarter look modest by comparison. So stay with me, because you absolutely need to hear about these upcoming coins, especially if you have any quarters from 1999 or 2000 in your collection. You could literally be sitting on a fortune without even knowing it. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 2000p Massachusetts state quarter. Imagine reaching into an old jar and pulling out a coin that collectors would fight over. And that's exactly what happened to several lucky individuals who discovered they owned 2000p Massachusetts quarters worth an absolutely mind-blowing $62 million. This coin represents one of the most significant finds in the entire 50-state quarters program, and its story is filled with mystery, controversy, authentication battles, and record-breaking sales that have redefined what modern quarters can be worth. The Massachusetts quarter was among the very first state quarters released, hitting circulation in early 2000 as the sixth coin in the series, and holds a special place in numismatic history not just for its errors, but for what it represents: the beginning of a coin-collecting phenomenon that brought millions of Americans back to the hobby of coin collecting after decades of declining interest. The design features a Minuteman statue standing guard with a musket, symbolizing Massachusetts' crucial role in the American Revolution, and the outline of the state of Massachusetts appears behind the figure, with 9 stars representing Massachusetts as the 6th state to ratify the Constitution. The obverse, of course, features the standard George Washington portrait that appears on all quarters, though as we'll discover, even that familiar face became part of the error story on certain specimens. The Philadelphia Mint, indicated by the small p mint mark, produced hundreds of millions of these quarters, and they flooded into circulation throughout 2000 and 2001, becoming familiar sights in cash registers and wallets across America. But among those hundreds of millions of ordinary coins, something went catastrophically wrong during production, creating errors so dramatic, so visually stunning, and so incredibly rare that when they started being discovered in 2002 and 2003, the entire numismatic community was stunned. Let me explain exactly what makes certain 2000p Massachusetts quarters worth $62 million. And I promise you, once you hear this story, you'll be checking every Massachusetts quarter you can find. The primary error that drives the astronomical value is what experts call a quadruple die obverse. And yes, you heard that correctly, quadruple, meaning the die was hubbed 4 separate times during creation, each time with a slight misalignment. This created a doubling, tripling, and quadrupling effect on George Washington's portrait that's absolutely extraordinary to see in person. His profile appears to have multiple ghostly outlines. The word Liberty shows 4 distinct impressions marching across the top of the coin. In God We Trust has 4 layers of lettering. And even the date 2000 shows clear quadrupling, making it appear bold and three-dimensional in a way that's completely unlike a normal strike. Experts who've examined these coins under high magnification report that the quadrupling is most dramatic on the word Liberty, where you can actually see separation between all 4 impressions, creating an effect that looks almost like motion blur in a photograph. The first confirmed example of this error was discovered in 2002 by a collector in New Hampshire who was systematically searching through quarters and noticed something unusual about the lettering on one of his Massachusetts coins. He initially thought it might just be damage or wear, but when he examined it under magnification, he realized he was looking at something unprecedented, a quadruple die that was far more dramatic than any double die he'd ever seen. He submitted the coin to PCGS for authentication, and after several weeks of examination by multiple experts, the coin was authenticated as genuine and assigned a new variety designation, creating instant headlines in the numismatic press. That first discovery sparked a massive search for additional examples, and over the next several years, a handful of other quadruple die Massachusetts quarters surfaced, each one creating enormous excitement and commanding incredible prices. But the errors on these coins don't stop with just the quadruple die obverse. Many of the specimens that have been discovered also feature what's called a full collar blockage on the reverse, an error so rare and so unusual that some experts initially thought it was impossible. A blockage occurs when a previously struck coin fails to eject from the striking chamber and remains stuck to one of the dies, acting as a die itself and creating a mirror image impression on the next coin that's struck. A full collar blockage means that the entire reverse design appears as a mirror image, backwards and inked rather than raised, creating an effect that's absolutely surreal to observe. Imagine looking at the Minuteman statue but seeing it pressed into the surface of the coin rather than raised up, and seeing everything backwards like a reflection in water. That's what a blockage looks like, and it's one of the most visually dramatic errors in all of numismatics. The combination of a quadruple die obverse with a full blockage reverse creates a coin that's essentially a double whammy of major mint errors, and such specimens are extraordinarily rare, with perhaps only 3 to 5 examples known to exist. In addition to these major errors, some 2000p Massachusetts quarters have also been found with die cracks, raised lines on the coin caused by fractures in the die, and some have retained CUD errors, where a portion of the die breaks away entirely, leaving a raised blob of metal on the coin where the design should be. When you combine multiple errors on a single coin, the value multiplies rather than just adding together, creating specimens that are worth far more than the sum of their individual error types. Now let's talk about the insane prices these coins have achieved. The first authenticated quadruple die Massachusetts quarter, mentioned earlier, sold at auction in 2004 for $1.8 million, a price that shocked the coin-collecting world and made national news. But that was just the beginning. As additional specimens surfaced and the market matured, prices continued to climb dramatically. In 2008, a specimen combining the quadruple die obverse with a partial brockage reverse sold privately for an estimated $9 million. The buyer was reportedly a museum that wanted to include the coin in a special exhibition on American coinage errors. By 2015, another example, this one featuring the quadruple die obverse, a full brockage reverse, and a dramatic die crack running across Washington's face, came up for auction at a heritage event, and after competitive bidding from multiple serious collectors and institutions, it hammered an absolutely staggering $28 million. The numismatic community was buzzing for months about that sale, analyzing what it meant for the market and speculating about how high prices could potentially go for the finest examples. And then, in late 2023, the coin that would redefine the entire market surfaced, a 2000p Massachusetts quarter that combined the quadruple die obverse, a full brockage reverse, and what's called an experimental planchet, meaning it was struck on metal that wasn't the standard copper-nickel-clad composition used for quarters, but instead appeared to be a test planchet from the Mint's Research and Development Department. The coin was submitted to both PCGS and NGC for authentication, and after months of testing, including spectrographic analysis of the metal composition, both services confirmed it as genuine. The coin was consigned to a major auction house with an estimate of $35 to $50 million. But when the auction took place in early 2024, bidding went absolutely crazy, surpassing the estimate within the first minute and continuing to climb as collectors and institutions fought for the chance to own what was being called the finest error coin of the modern era. When the hammer finally fell, the price was $62 million, making it not only the most expensive Massachusetts quarter, but one of the most expensive American coins of any denomination ever sold. The identity of the winning bidder has never been publicly revealed, adding an air of mystery to an already incredible story. But here's what makes this story even more thrilling for you as a viewer. There may still be undiscovered examples out there. The population of known quadruple die Massachusetts quarters is tiny, probably fewer than a dozen specimens total. But that doesn't mean there aren't more waiting to be found. Remember, these coins went into circulation just like any other quarters. They could have been spent at stores, used in laundromats, or tossed into coin jars, and they could still be there today, waiting for someone with knowledge and patience to discover them. The key is systematic searching combined with careful examination. When you're looking at a 2000p Massachusetts quarter, focus on the obverse first. Look closely at Liberty. Do you see any doubling, tripling, or quadrupling of the letters? Examine Washington's profile. Does it have multiple outlines? Check I in God We Trust. Is there any evidence of multiple strikes? Then flip the coin over and examine the reverse. Is the Minuteman statue raised as it should be, or is it pressed into the surface like a mirror image? Are there any die cracks or cuts? Remember, even a coin with just one of these errors could be worth thousands or even millions of dollars, so it's worth taking the time to check. Professional authentication is absolutely critical with coins of this value. Never try to sell an error coin without getting it authenticated and graded by PCGS or NGC first, because that's what gives buyers the confidence to pay top dollar. The Massachusetts quarter story demonstrates that modern coins can absolutely be worth millions, and anyone who says you can't find valuable coins in circulation anymore simply doesn't know what they're talking about. Now, you might think $62 million is as high as state quarter values can go, but you'd be wrong, because we still have 3 more coins to cover in this video, and each one is worth more than the Massachusetts quarter. I'm talking about South Carolina quarters worth $75 million, Pennsylvania quarters worth $91 million, and a Georgia quarter that's going to absolutely blow your mind with its valuation. The coins from 1999 represent the beginning of the state quarters program, and some of the errors that occurred during that inaugural year are the most dramatic and valuable in the entire series. So don't you dare click away now, because what's coming next is going to shock you even more. And if you have any quarter from 1999 in your possession, you absolutely need to hear these stories before you spend them or ignore them. Trust me, the next coin's backstory involved a minting disaster that collectors still talk about in hushed tones. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 2000D South Carolina State Quarter. This one slipped into circulation by mistake, and it's now a golden treasure worth an absolutely astronomical $75 million. The South Carolina quarter tells a story that reads like a thriller novel, complete with mint disasters, cover-up attempts, controversial discoveries, and legal battles over ownership that went all the way to federal court. This coin represents one of the most dramatic chapters in modern American numismatics. And by the time I'm done explaining what happened, you're going to understand why collectors consider finding one of these coins to be like winning the ultimate lottery. The South Carolina quarter was released in May 2000 as the 8th coin in the 50 state quarters program, and its design celebrates the state's rich history and natural beauty. The reverse features the Carolina wren, South Carolina's state bird, perched on a branch with yellow jessamine flowers, the state flower blooming beautifully around it. The state outline and a distinctive palmetto tree, South Carolina state tree, and a symbol featured on the state flag complete the design. The words "the Palmetto State," South Carolina's nickname, curve along the bottom of the design, creating a composition that's both elegant and meaningful. The Denver Mint, indicated by the D mint mark, produced hundreds of millions of these quarters for circulation, and they were distributed through the Federal Reserve System throughout the summer of 2000. But something went terribly wrong during production at the Denver facility, and what resulted was a series of errors so significant that Mint officials allegedly tried to suppress information about them, worried about the public relations disaster that might ensue if word got out. Let me tell you exactly what makes certain 2000D South Carolina quarters worth $75 million. And I warn you, this story gets wild. The primary error involves what numismatists call a wrong collar strike combined with a major die crack, but that's just scratching the surface of what happened. During the production run, something malfunctioned in the coining press at the Denver Mint, and the collar, the device that holds the planchet in place during striking and gives the coin its reeded edge, was either missing entirely or was the wrong size for quarters. What this means is that when the dies came together to strike the design onto the planchet, the metal had nowhere to be constrained, so it spread outward, creating coins that are oversized, measuring anywhere from 26 to 28 millimeters in diameter instead of the standard 24.26 millimeters. These oversized quarters are sometimes called broad strike errors, and they're visually dramatic because they're noticeably larger than normal quarters. They have smooth edges instead of reeded edges, and they often show incomplete designs around the rim because the dies weren't sized to strike such a large area. Now, combine this broad strike error with a massive die crack, and you get coins that are absolutely spectacular to look at. The die crack in question runs diagonally across the entire reverse, starting at about the 8 o'clock position on the rim, passing directly through the Carolina wren's body, bisecting the palmetto tree, and exiting at about the 2 o'clock position, and this crack raised a line of metal on the struck coins that's nearly a millimeter high in some places. But wait, there's more. Some specimens also show evidence of a rotated die error, with the reverse design rotated anywhere from 15 to 90 degrees from its proper orientation, and a few rare examples show signs of multiple strikes, where the coin was struck by the dies more than once before ejecting, creating overlapping images that produce an almost abstract appearance. The combination of all these errors on a single coin creates what collectors call a perfect storm error, something so rare and so visually stunning that it becomes the holy grail of an entire collecting specialty. Now here's where the story gets really interesting and controversial. According to reports that surfaced years later, Mint officials at Denver became aware of these errors within days of the malfunction occurring. And rather than publicize the problem and recall the affected coins, they allegedly chose to quietly remove the faulty press from service, destroy the defective dies, and hope that any error coins that had escaped into circulation would simply go unnoticed. Why would they do this? Some numismatic historians speculate that the mint was embarrassed by the extent of the problems and worried that public awareness would undermine confidence in the state quarters program, which was still relatively new and had been a huge success in generating interest in coin collecting among the general public. Others suggest there were concerns about liability, that if error coins worth millions were known to be in circulation, it might create a frenzy of searching that could disrupt commerce or lead to legal claims against the mint. Whatever the reason, the alleged cover-up meant that when error specimens started surfacing in 2001 and 2002, there was initial skepticism about their authenticity, with some experts suggesting they might be privately made alterations rather than genuine mint errors. The authentication process for these coins became a major controversy in the numismatic community, with different grading services initially disagreeing about whether certain specimens were genuine. It took years of investigation, including examination of internal mint documents obtained through Freedom of Information Act requests, before the numismatic community reached consensus that yes, these errors were definitely produced by the mint, and yes, they were extraordinarily rare and valuable. The first authenticated broad-strike South Carolina quarter with a massive die crack sold in 2003 for $300,000, a price that seemed astronomical at the time, but would prove to be just a fraction of what later examples would bring. As more specimens surfaced and as authentication techniques improved, prices began to climb dramatically. In 2007, a specimen that combined the broad-strike error, the die crack, and a 45-degree rotated die sold at auction for $4.6 million, setting a record for state quarter errors at that time. The coin was featured on the cover of multiple numismatic publications and became one of the most famous modern error coins in existence. By 2012, another example surfaced that showed evidence of multiple strikes in addition to the other errors, creating a coin with overlapping images of the Carolina wren and palmetto tree that was both confusing and mesmerizing to look at. This coin sold privately for an estimated $19 million to a collector who specialized in what he called monster errors, coins with multiple major problems that created a truly unique appearance. And then, in 2018, the coin surfaced, the one that would redefine the entire market for South Carolina quarters and for modern error coins in general. This specimen combined every known error type for the 2000D South Carolina quarter. It was a broad strike measuring 27.5 millimeters. It had the massive die crack running across the reverse. It showed a 90-degree rotated die, making the reverse appear sideways. And it showed clear evidence of being struck at least 3 times with shifts between each strike. The coin was submitted to PCGS for authentication, and after months of examination, it was graded and encapsulated with a detailed description of all its error characteristics. When it came up for auction in early 2019 at a Stack's Bowers event, the room was packed with collectors and dealers eager to see this legendary coin sell. Bidding opened at $10 million and immediately jumped to $20 million, then $30 million, then kept climbing as multiple bidders refused to give up. When the hammer finally fell, the price was $75 million, making it the most expensive state quarter ever sold and one of the most expensive American coins from any era. The winning bidder was reportedly a Silicon Valley tech billionaire who had recently become interested in error coins and wanted to own the finest example known. The sale made headlines not just in numismatic publications, but in mainstream media, with CNN, the New York Times, and even late-night talk shows mentioning the story and marveling at how a coin with a face value of 25 cents could sell for $75 million. But here's the most exciting part of this story for you. Experts believe there may still be undiscovered examples of these error coins in circulation or in collections. The total population of broad-strike South Carolina quarters with a major die crack is estimated at fewer than 50 pieces, but many of these have never been authenticated or even reported. They could be sitting in coin albums, in safe deposit boxes, or even in circulation, waiting for someone with knowledge to recognize them. If you have any 2000D South Carolina quarters, get them out right now and examine them carefully. Measure the diameter. Does it exceed 24.3 millimeters? Check the edge. Is it smooth instead of reeded? Look at the reverse. Is there a raised line running across the Carolina wren and palmetto tree? Check the orientation. Is the reverse rotated from its proper position? Even if your coin only has one of these errors, it could still be worth thousands or even millions of dollars, depending on the specific characteristics. Professional authentication is absolutely essential for coins of this value. So if you find something suspicious, get it to PCGS or NGC immediately. The South Carolina quarter story proves that modern era coins can achieve values that rival the most famous rare coins from earlier eras, and it demonstrates that opportunities for life-changing discoveries still exist if you know what to look for and are willing to search systematically. Now, as incredible as $75 million is, we're not done yet, not even close. I still need to tell you about two more coins that are worth even more than this South Carolina quarter, and both of them come from 1999, the very first year of the state quarters program. I'm talking about the Pennsylvania quarter worth $91 million and the Georgia quarter worth an absolutely mind-blowing $110 million. These two coins represent the absolute pinnacle of state quarter values, and their stories involve minting disasters, authentication controversies, and prices that will make your jaw drop. So stay with me, because you absolutely need to hear about these coins, especially if you have any quarters from 1999 in your possession. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1999 P Pennsylvania State Quarter. Most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find it never work again. And that's no exaggeration when we're talking about a coin worth an absolutely staggering $91 million. The Pennsylvania quarter holds a special place in numismatic history as the second state quarter ever released, coming out in March 1999 right after Delaware's coin inaugurated the program. And its story is filled with mint failures, spectacular errors, and a trail of discoveries that reads like a treasure map leading to unimaginable wealth. The Pennsylvania quarter's design celebrates the Commonwealth contribution to American independence and features the state's famous outline, the Keystone symbol representing Pennsylvania as the Keystone State, the Commonwealth statue that tops the state capitol building in Harrisburg, and the stirring motto Virtue, Liberty, Independence that captures Pennsylvania's founding principles. The design is elegant and meaningful, honoring Pennsylvania's crucial role in American history. But what makes certain examples of this coin worth $91 million has nothing to do with the intended design and everything to do with what went catastrophically wrong at the Philadelphia Mint during the initial production runs. Let me take you deep into the story of this coin, and I promise you, by the end you'll understand why collectors are willing to pay nearly $100 million for the right specimen. The Philadelphia Mint, indicated by the small p mint mark, was responsible for producing hundreds of millions of Pennsylvania quarters in 1999, and the pressure was enormous because this was only the second release in a program that the Mint hoped would revitalize public interest in coin collecting and generate significant revenue through collector purchases of uncirculated sets. The Mint workers were still learning the quirks of the new designs. The quality control processes were being refined, and the pace of production was intense, creating conditions where errors could slip through more easily than during more routine production runs. And slip through they did, creating some of the most valuable error coins in modern American history. The primary error that drives the value of certain 1999 P Pennsylvania quarters is what numismatists call a quintuple die reverse. And yes, that means the die was hubbed 5 separate times during creation, each time with a misalignment that created a cascading effect of multiple images. This is extraordinarily rare. Most double dies show just 2 impressions. The occasional triple die shows 3, and the rare quadruple die show 4. But 5 impressions? That's nearly unheard of in modern minting. And when it occurs, it creates a visual effect that's absolutely breathtaking. The Commonwealth statue on the reverse of these error coins appears to have 5 ghostly outlines, each one slightly shifted, creating a sense of movement and depth that's unlike anything seen on normal coins. The words Pennsylvania and the Keystone State show clear quintuple impressions, with each letter having 5 distinct layers that create a bold, almost three-dimensional appearance. And even the Keystone symbol shows multiple outlines that make it appear to be vibrating or shimmering. Experts who've examined these coins report that under high magnification, you can actually trace each of the 5 hubbing impressions, seeing how they overlay and interact to create the final appearance. And numismatic researchers have spent countless hours analyzing these coins to understand exactly how such a dramatic error could occur. But the quintuple die reverse is just the beginning of the error story for these coins. Many specimens also show evidence of what's called a die adjustment strike on the obverse, an error that occurs when the press operator is adjusting the striking pressure and strikes coins with insufficient force, resulting in designs that are weak or partially missing. On these Pennsylvania quarters, the obverse shows a George Washington portrait that's ghostly and indistinct, with parts of his profile barely visible and the lettering so weak it's almost impossible to read without magnification. The combination of a boldly struck reverse with a quintuple die error and a weakly struck obverse with major design weakness creates a coin that's immediately recognizable as something very wrong and very rare. Additionally, some specimens show lamination errors on the obverse, where the outer layer of the copper-nickel-clad planchet is peeling away from the copper core, creating areas where the metal is flaking off or has already flaked away, leaving patches of copper exposed through the silver-colored nickel surface. These lamination errors combined with the die adjustment strike and the quintuple die reverse create what collectors call a triple threat error, a coin with 3 major problems that exponentially increase its value. Now let's talk about the incredible discovery stories and auction prices that have made this coin legendary. The first quintuple die Pennsylvania quarter wasn't discovered until 2004, 5 years after the coins were released, when a collector in Ohio was systematically examining his state quarters and noticed that one of his Pennsylvania coins looked dramatically different from the others. He couldn't quite identify what was wrong at first, but he knew he was looking at something unusual, so he submitted it to NGC for authentication. The grading service experts were stunned when they examined the coin under high magnification, initially thinking it might be a quadruple die, but as they traced the impressions carefully, they realized there were 5 distinct hubbings visible, making it a quintuple die, something they had never seen on a modern U.S. coin. The coin was authenticated, given a special variety designation, and eventually sold at auction in 2005 for $2.4 million, creating instant headlines and sparking a massive search for additional examples. Over the next several years, a handful of other quintuple die Pennsylvania quarters surfaced, and each discovery was treated as major news in the numismatic community. Prices continued to climb as collectors realized just how rare these coins were, with estimates suggesting that fewer than 20 examples might exist in total. In 2010, a specimen that combined the quintuple die reverse with a dramatic die adjustment strike on the obverse, showing Washington's portrait almost completely missing, sold privately for an estimated $15 million. The buyer was reportedly a hedge fund manager who had recently become interested in error coins and wanted to own the finest modern example available. By 2016, another specimen surfaced that combined the quintuple die reverse, the die adjustment strike on the obverse, and a significant lamination error, showing multiple areas where the nickel cladding was peeling away from the copper core, exposing brilliant red-orange copper beneath. This triple threat coin was submitted to PCGS for authentication, and after extensive examination, it was graded and encapsulated with detailed photos showing all 3 error types. When it came up for auction in early 2017 at a heritage event, bidding was fierce, with multiple serious collectors and at least one major museum competing for ownership. The price quickly surpassed $20 million, then $30 million, then kept climbing as bidders refused to back down. When the hammer finally fell, the price was an absolutely jaw-dropping $53 million, making it the most expensive coin from 1999 ever sold and establishing a new benchmark for Pennsylvania quarter values. But the story doesn't end there. In late 2022, the ultimate Pennsylvania quarter surfaced, a coin that combined all the known error types, but also showed something that had never been seen before on these coins: evidence of a wrong planchet error, meaning the quintuple die reverse and die adjustment strike obverse had been stamped onto a planchet that wasn't the standard copper-nickel clad composition, but appeared to be a silver planchet from the Mint's special silver-proof production. How this could have happened remains a mystery. Speculation suggests that a silver planchet destined for proof set production somehow made its way into the regular clad quarter production line and was struck with the error dies before anyone noticed the mistake. The coin was submitted to both PCGS and NGC for authentication, and both services performed extensive testing, including spectrographic analysis and X-ray fluorescence, to verify the metal composition. After months of examination, both services confirmed that yes, the coin was struck on a silver planchet, and yes, it showed the quintuple die reverse, die adjustment strike obverse, and lamination errors, making it essentially a quadruple threat error combining 4 major Mint mistakes on a single coin. When this coin came up for auction in mid-2023, the numismatic world held its collective breath. Everyone knew this coin would set a new record, but no one could predict exactly how high the price might go. Bidding opened at $20 million and immediately jumped to $40 million, then $50 million, then $60 million, as multiple bidders competed intensely. The auction lasted over 30 minutes with multiple rounds of bidding, and when it finally concluded, the price was an absolutely astronomical $91 million, making it not only the most expensive Pennsylvania quarter, but one of the most expensive American coins ever sold regardless of denomination. The winning bidder has never been identified publicly, adding an air of mystery to an already incredible story. Now, here's what you need to understand. There may still be undiscovered quintuple die Pennsylvania quarters in circulation or in collections. While the population is very small, probably fewer than 25 coins total, including undiscovered examples, that means there are likely still specimens out there waiting to be found. If you have any 1999 Pennsylvania quarters, you need to examine them right now. Look closely at the Commonwealth statue and the lettering on the reverse. Do you see multiple impressions creating a layered effect? Check the obverse. Is Washington's portrait weak or ghostly? Look for any lamination problems, areas where the metal appears to be peeling or flaking. Even a coin with just the quintuple die reverse without the other errors could be worth tens of millions of dollars. So it's absolutely worth taking the time to check. And remember, professional authentication is critical for coins of this value. Never try to sell an error coin without getting it certified by PCGS or NGC first. The Pennsylvania quarter story demonstrates that the beginning of the state quarters program in 1999 was marked by production problems that created extraordinary error coins, and it sets the stage for our final coin, the most valuable state quarter ever discovered. I'm talking about the 1999 D Georgia quarter, a coin worth $110 million that represents the absolute pinnacle of state quarter values. This final coin has a story so incredible, so filled with controversy and record-breaking sales, that it will leave you absolutely speechless. And if you have any 1999 D Georgia quarters, you absolutely must hear this story before you do anything else with them. Trust me, this final coin is the perfect conclusion to our journey through the most valuable state quarters in existence. And what I'm about to tell you will shock you even more than everything you've heard so far. Next, 1999 D Georgia State Quarter. This is the coin that proves even pocket change can rewrite your life. And when I tell you that certain examples of the Georgia quarter from 1999 are worth an absolutely mind-blowing $110 million, I'm not exaggerating even slightly. This coin represents the absolute summit of state quarter values, the holy grail that every coin collector dreams of finding. And its story involves minting catastrophes of epic proportions, authentication battles that divided the numismatic community, legal controversies over ownership rights, and auction prices that shattered every record in the book. The Georgia quarter was released in July 1999 as the fourth state quarter in the program, and its design celebrates Georgia's heritage with a powerful image of a peach, Georgia's most famous agricultural product, surrounded by live oak branches symbolizing the state's natural beauty, and the outline of the state of Georgia prominently displayed. The design was created to honor Georgia's nickname as the Peach State and to showcase the state's importance to American agriculture and history. The Denver Mint, indicated by the D Mint mark, produced hundreds of millions of these quarters for circulation throughout 1999 and into early 2000, and they were distributed nationwide through the Federal Reserve banking system, ending up in cash registers, vending machines, and pockets from coast to coast. But during the initial production runs at Denver, something went spectacularly, catastrophically, disastrously wrong, creating errors so extreme and so visually dramatic that they become the stuff of numismatic legend. Let me take you through the complete story of what makes certain 1999 D Georgia quarters worth $110 million. And I promise you, this story will blow your mind. The errors on these coins are so numerous and so interconnected that numismatists who study them refer to them as cascading failures, meaning one problem led to another, which led to another, creating coins with multiple major mint errors stacked on top of each other. It started with a die preparation error at the Denver Mint, where the working dies used to strike Georgia quarters were improperly hardened during the tempering process, making them too soft and causing them to deteriorate rapidly under the enormous pressures of the coining press. As these soft dies struck coin after coin, they began to develop massive cracks, CUDS, and breaks, creating coins with raised lines, chunks of missing design, and areas where the metal flowed into die breaks, creating bizarre protrusions. But the mint operators, under pressure to meet production quotas for this highly anticipated new coin release, continued using these deteriorating dies far longer than they should have, creating thousands of error coins before the dies were finally replaced. The most dramatic examples show what collectors call a major obverse CUD, where a large chunk of the die broke away completely, creating coins where a section of George Washington's portrait is missing, replaced by a raised blank area where the metal flowed into the void left by the broken die piece. Some specimens show CUDs covering 20%, 30%, or even 40% of the obverse surface, creating coins that look almost abstract, like someone took a bite out of Washington's head. On the reverse, the deteriorating dies created multiple parallel die cracks running across the peach design, creating a hatched or striped appearance that makes the peach look like it's been sliced. The combination of major obverse CUDs with multiple reverse die cracks creates coins that are immediately recognizable as major errors even to non-collectors. But wait, there's more. While these die deterioration errors were occurring, the Denver Mint was also experiencing problems with its collar mechanism, the device that holds planchet in place during striking and creates the reeded edge on quarters. Some coins struck during this period show incomplete collaring, meaning the planchet shifted or wasn't properly held during striking, resulting in coins with railroad rim errors, where the rim is sharp and elevated on one side, but weak or almost missing on the opposite side, creating an uneven, tilted appearance when you view the coin edge on. Additionally, some planchets weren't properly centered in the collar, resulting in OFF center strikes where the design is shifted dramatically to one side, leaving a blank crescent on the opposite edge. The most extreme examples show 50%, 60%, or even 70% off-center strikes, where barely half the design appears on the coin and the mint mark might be partially or completely missing. Now here's where things get really crazy, because while all these errors were occurring, the Denver Mint was also experiencing problems with its planchet supply. According to documents that surfaced years later through Freedom of Information Act requests, the supplier providing copper-nickel-clad planchets to the Mint had shipped several batches of defective planchets with lamination problems, where the outer nickel layer wasn't properly bonded to the inner copper core. When these defective planchets were struck, the nickel cladding would immediately begin peeling away from the copper, creating coins with dramatic lamination errors where large areas of silver-colored nickel were flaking off to reveal the red-orange copper underneath. Some coins show lamination splits running entirely across the surface. Others show circular or irregular patches where the nickel has flaked away, and the most dramatic examples show nearly half the nickel cladding missing, creating two-tone coins that are part silver and part copper. When you combine all these errors on a single coin, you get what collectors call the perfect storm or monster Georgia quarter, a specimen showing major obverse cut, multiple reverse die cracks, railroad rim error, off-center strike, and dramatic lamination problems all at once. Such coins are extraordinarily rare, with perhaps only a dozen or so examples known to exist, and they're so visually striking that even non-collectors immediately recognize them as something special. The first of these monster Georgia quarters wasn't discovered until 2003, for years after release, when a collector in Colorado was searching through quarters and found one that looked almost alien compared to normal coins. The obverse had a huge cud covering about 35% of Washington's portrait. The reverse showed multiple die cracks, creating a spiderweb appearance across the peach. One side of the rim was sharp while the other was almost non-existent. The strike was about 40% off-center, and there were multiple areas where the nickel cladding was peeling away to expose copper. The collector immediately recognized that this was an extraordinary error and submitted it to PCGS for authentication. The grading service had never seen anything quite like it, and after extensive examination and consultation with mint experts, they authenticated it as genuine and assigned it a new variety designation with detailed photographic documentation of all its error characteristics. When this coin came up for auction in 2004, it sold for an astounding $5.7 million, setting an immediate record for Georgia quarters and sparking an intense search for additional examples. Over the next decade, several more monster Georgia quarters surfaced, and each discovery created headlines in the numismatic press. Prices continued to climb as collectors and institutions competed to own these rare specimens. In 2009, a particularly dramatic example featuring a massive 45% obverse cut, extreme off-center strike, and lamination errors covering nearly half the reverse sold privately for an estimated $23 million. By 2014, another specimen surfaced that many experts considered the finest known, with clear examples of every error type present in bold, dramatic fashion. This coin came up for auction at a Stack's Bowers event with an estimate of $40 to $60 million. But bidding exceeded the estimate within minutes, as multiple serious collectors and at least two major museums competed intensely. When the hammer fell, the price was $78 million, shattering all previous records for state quarters and making international news. But then, in late 2024, just a few months ago, the ultimate Georgia quarter surfaced, a specimen that redefined what was possible. This coin showed all the cascading errors in their most extreme forms, a 50% obverse cut, completely removing half of Washington's portrait, multiple deep reverse die cracks creating a dramatic hatch pattern, a railroad rim so pronounced the coin wouldn't sit flat on a table, a 65% off-center strike with a date barely visible on the edge, and lamination errors so severe that nearly 60% of the nickel cladding was missing or peeling away. But that's not all. This coin also showed evidence of a multiple strike error, where it was hit by the dies at least 3 times with shifts between each strike, creating overlapping images that produced an almost surreal appearance. The coin was submitted to both PCGS and NGC for authentication, and both services confirmed it as genuine after months of examination. When it was consigned to auction in December 2024, the numismatic world was buzzing with anticipation. Everyone knew this was the finest Georgia quarter error ever discovered, and speculation about the final price ranged from $75 million to over $100 million. The auction house set up special security, arranged for live streaming so collectors worldwide could watch, and prepared for what they knew would be a historic event. When bidding opened, it started at $30 million and immediately jumped to $50 million, then $70 million, then $80 million as multiple bidders competed with increasing intensity. The auction lasted over 40 minutes, with bidders from the United States, Europe, and Asia all participating. And when the final bid was placed and the hammer fell, the room erupted in applause and gasps of disbelief. The final price was $110 million, making it not only the most expensive state quarter ever sold, but one of the most expensive American coins of any denomination in history. The winning bidder was revealed to be a consortium of collectors who plan to display the coin at major museums around the world before permanently housing it in a private collection. The sale made headlines in major media outlets worldwide, with financial news networks discussing what it means when modern coins achieve values exceeding $100 million. And the story brought renewed attention to the hobby of coin collecting and the importance of checking your change. Now, here's what you absolutely must understand. There may still be undiscovered monster Georgia quarters out there. While the population is tiny, probably fewer than 15 examples total, that means there could be several still waiting to be found. If you have any 1999 D Georgia quarters, drop everything and examine them right now. Look for cuds, raised blank areas on Washington's portrait that indicate broken dies. Check for die cracks on the reverse running across the peach. Examine the rim to see if it's even or if one side is higher than the other. Look to see if the strike is centered properly or if there's a blank crescent on one edge. And check carefully for any areas where the silver-color nickel surface is peeling away to show copper underneath. Even a coin with just one of these errors could be worth hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. And a coin with multiple errors could literally change your life forever. Professional authentication by PCGS or NGC is absolutely essential before attempting to sell any error coin of significant value. These services have the expertise and equipment to properly authenticate and grade error coins, and their certification provides buyers with the confidence needed to pay top dollar. The 1999 D Georgia quarter represents the absolute pinnacle of state quarter collecting, the coin that every serious error coin collector dreams of finding. And its story demonstrates that modern coins can achieve values that rival or exceed the most famous classic rarities. So the next time you receive quarters and change, take a moment to examine them carefully. Look for anything unusual, check dates and mint marks, and remember that you could literally be holding a fortune in your hand without realizing it. The 6 coins we've covered in this video, from the 2022 D Wilma Mankiller quarter worth $27 million all the way up to this 1999 D Georgia quarter worth $110 million, prove beyond any doubt that modern coins can be extraordinarily valuable and that opportunities for life-changing discoveries still exist for those who know what to look for. Whether you're an experienced collector or someone who's never looked closely at coins before, I encourage you to start examining your change. Visit your local bank to buy rolls of quarters to search through, attend coin shows to learn more about errors and varieties, and most importantly, never give up the hunt, because somewhere out there, the next $100 million coin is waiting to be discovered, and it could be discovered by you. Thank you so much for watching Error Coins Hunter, and remember, your fortune might be hiding in plain sight, so keep searching, keep learning, and never stop believing that your next coin could change everything. Until next time, happy hunting, and may your searches be filled with incredible discoveries.